What do you think? Would not one tiny crime be wiped out by thousands of good deeds? For one life, thousands would be saved from corruption and decay. One death and 100 lives in exchange. It's simple arithmetic. What's up, gang, and welcome to the Rereadables. I'm Eric Mao.
And I'm Ryan Anselm.
This episode today is brought to you by Clement's Latin Club, the perfect club for all of your Latin-related needs. Meetings are Friday after school in Mr. Brown's room.
Our episode today is over one of the 19th century's most rereadable novels, Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, a suspenseful thriller of a novel detailing the journeys of our protagonist, a man named Rodion Raskolnikov, and his mental turbulence after he commits a murder.
So let's get into what makes Crime and Punishment such a rereadable novel.
Alright, so let's examine the things which make this book a classic, the rereadable scenes. So let's briefly go through each of the scenes and see what makes them tick.
I'll start first. So I think the first rereadable scene is definitely the scene of the two murders. Leading up to this point in the book, Raskolnikov really has spent so much time and energy just planning out his murder, and all of a sudden, his hand is forced and almost nothing goes to plan. I really think that speaks volumes about his character, like the fact that he gains virtually nothing from this crime, except a guilty conscience that weighs him down for the remainder of the book, really makes you think.
I have to agree with you there, but this next scene is where Raskolnikov is in the police office with the policeman, Porfiry Petrovich. And what makes this book so great is that these side characters like Petrovich aren't just one-dimensional. Petrovich is like playing mind games with Raskolnikov, trying to get him to confess. And he's acting as if he's already figured out indisputably that Raskolnikov is guilty. He just needs him to make the confession himself. Now, if Raskolnikov does this, actually confesses, then it's basically over for him, no matter what.
Over.
Yeah, but Raskolnikov, being a smart character, he calls this out as a bluff, but he's not actually sure whether or not it's a bluff or not. But before Petrovich gets him to the point where he actually confesses, another random guy bursts into the office and confesses to the crime that Raskolnikov actually committed, which is a sort of curtain pull for Raskolnikov. It shows that Petrovich has been doing the same mind games for all the other suspects. So Raskolnikov escapes his fate a little bit longer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I really like that scene as well, and it's definitely one of the most exciting ones. But I think I have another one. So our final rereadable scene here is probably at the end of the book, where Raskolnikov finally confesses to the murder. So like a bit after what you said, completely and utterly defeated. So he pleads guilty, cooperates completely, and is redeemed partially by evidence suggesting that the murder was out of temporary delirium and not selfish reasons, as he didn't even bother to check how much money was in the pouch he had taken before hiding it. But all in all, my personal most rereadable scene would definitely have to have been the interview, because I think this is when Dostoevsky shines best.
I agree. I think it's what makes this book kind of interesting as a psychological and philosophical experience.
Yep. While this book is undoubtedly a classic and one of the best novels of the 19th century, certainly one of Dostoevsky's best, is it the best book that Fyodor Dostoevsky has ever written?
Maybe. We can say that there's really only one other book which can contest Crime and Punishment as the peak of Dostoevsky's writing career, and that would be The Brothers Karamazov, his final work, which he began publishing like 13 years after.
Yeah, I don't think very many people would say that these aren't his top two. Crime and Punishment thematically confronts some of the emergent moral questions and implications of new directions of philosophy in Russia at the time, such as nihilism and rationalism. The Brothers Karamazov also addresses philosophical and ethical issues of this time. Having read neither of them, though, I am biased in favor of Crime and Punishment because the title is way cooler. Haha, just kidding. I read it, please don't roast me.
Actually, I disagree, but take my opinion with a grain of salt. While I greatly enjoyed Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov is more commonly regarded as Dostoevsky's magnum opus by literary critics as a whole. And neither of us are really literary critics. Because it is his last work, Dostoevsky's craft likely would have been in peak form just before his death, plus the novel speaks for itself. All in all though, both are amazing staples of Russian literature and world literature as a whole. They're similar in that they're deeply philosophical, and they're about criminals, both set in Russia that's modernizing. It's no longer the Tsardom it once was. And there's new philosophies, new beliefs challenging the old religious authority of the Russian Orthodox Church. What they differ significantly is there's some parts of the structure. Crime and Punishment has some unique structural elements, such as a compositional symmetry between the first and second halves of the novel, with a distinct divide in the middle between a rationally behaving, or a relatively rationally behaving Raskolnikov in the first half. I mean, he still committed a murder, and a more irrational Raskolnikov in the second part, showing his transition into a crazy person. Yeah, the brothers Karamazov, however, also does some unique things at the time. It uses a variety of viewpoints to tell the story, in addition to a principal narrator that's a self-described writer. And these are just some of the things that Dostoevsky has done that are modernized literary elements that weren't seen in very many books otherwise, but it's a sign of him pushing the frontier of writing.
Yeah, I think this discussion is really up to a matter of personal opinion because both books are truly great and arguments can be made in both ways. Personally, though, I really enjoyed reading Crime and Punishment because the thrill of just like the psychological aspect of the novel as Raskolnikov is trying desperately not to get caught just made the entire thing a lot more enjoyable for me. Of course, I haven't read The Brothers K, but this is just my personal opinion on Crime and Punishment. Throughout Crime and Punishment, I really saw a lot of characters that overreacted, deceived, and surprised the audience. It was really a common theme throughout the entire book, I thought.
Yeah, I did as well, and I think the most obvious character that did all of these is Raskolnikov.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, the entire plot of the book really revolves around Raskolnikov's deception of Porfiry and those around him, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And a lot of the book is more about the psychological stress that Raskolnikov goes through as a result of his deceit and his guilty conscience. He constantly worries that he might get caught, and it leads him to act rather unreasonably. He faints in the police station, for instance, when the murders are even mentioned, and when he wakes up the next day, or when he wakes up the day after the murder, he's frantically searching all of his clothes for any evidence of the murder to try to survive.
Yeah, not even that though, but all the sicknesses that he gets as a result of the immense pressures he's under to deceive leads to him being actually physically sick as well, as we saw in multiple scenes where in the beginning he's just talking with the doctor and all that. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but I would say that this deceit is really what makes the novel a great piece of literature. It builds up to, his leading up builds up to the creation of the most readable scene.
At least in my opinion, yeah.
And it's a constant source of tension and stress. That's what really makes the novel an effective psychological thriller.
What else is there, though? Honestly, Raskolnikov's overreactions to all of these things is what I think leads to his eventual breakdown, too. He constantly worries about others finding out about his deceit, and that leads to his downfall in the novel.
For sure. That's what leads to his confession with Porfiry, too.
Yeah, and there's also that person that confesses to a murder when he didn't even do it, when, he just rushes in. I mean, he doesn't even rush in, but Porfiry is introducing Raskolnikov into the other room. And then I thought Raskolnikov was his career was just over there. But then the other guy was like, I committed the murder. I definitely didn't see that one coming. That was a pretty big surprise for me.
Yeah, what a plot twist for sure. I didn't see that one coming. I thought it was the end for Raskolnikov.
What are all the other pages in the book for?
That's the punishment section.
Yeah. So overall, almost all of these things come to surprise us. Literally every character's reactions to almost everything. So Porfiry's excellent interrogation behaviors and how Raskolnikov reacts are some of these surprising moments for me, and I think for almost everyone else that's read the novel too. We don't really see anything coming, and that coupled with the suspense crafted from the deceit and overreactions really just leads Crime and Punishment to be a beautiful and rereadable novel, and honestly one of my favorite books, at least the ones that we've had to read, we've been mandated to read for English classes, you know?
I think I was going off of what I was saying earlier. The punishment in the novel, because it's obviously titled Crime and Punishment, the punishment is a psychological punishment, not actually. That's the entirety of the book is Raskolnikov's psychological punishment for his crime, and I think that's kind of interesting, the way that it sort of deceives your expectations of what the punishment is, but that's what really makes it great.
Yep.
Anyways, that's Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment for you. Thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of the day.
Until next time, bum bum.